Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another session from the Wise Asylum. Ho ho! Hope you had a good Christmas. I certainly did. Nice and quiet, just as I like it. Passes you by well, which has got to be good. How's the sound? Just let me know if it's not good. It should be in good order, but you never know. I'm trying to keep this mic just a little bit further away this time. I could hear all me breathing and everything on last week's. So just let me know if the sound's good, and there we go. Okay. Now then, if you've been watching all the garbage on the old internet, now fully AI controlled, then you'll all see it's all about this gap year that the benevolent Childcare Westminster is offering to Generation Z. Oh, okay. For skills. So they can get skills. Of course, it's got nothing to do with the fact they want to conscript the white race. Oh, nothing to do with that whatsoever. And leaving them all to the subcultures that they've imported from every jail and prison across Islamic nations. Well, that's exactly what it's about. I mean, you really need to get a grip, thanks Upward, to what's really going on. But more importantly, you need to pass this on to the younger generation. Because if you have not noticed, they don't want the younger generation on the social media platforms anymore. Why? Because they just might find out what the real game is on this. Let's get them all into the military. Their children are not being in the military, of course, or if they are, they'll be commissioned. If they're commissioned, of course, they're Zionists, working for the same old bunch of tossers that have been annihilating the white race since World War I. And before that, even, let's be honest. Anyway, that's the game. That's what's really going on. So I've just put some bits together. Nothing massive for tonight, of course. It's Christmas. Nobody wants to spend any longer than they need to listening to little old me during the old Christmas gig. Do you? Of course not. Absolutely not. So I thought we'll chill along. We can have a chinwag if you want after. And but nothing major. Let's not stretch anybody's heads. Let's just look at what's going on right now everywhere as they try and conscript all our offspring. Because it's the under 25s at this stage. Not good. And I really do think people need to get a grip of what's really going on before it's too late. There's been some interesting stuff. I told a few months ago that I've been starting to have a good look at this Moor situation. You know, the Moors, there's that much data being thrust out everywhere. And in truth, there's a lot of interesting data that clearly shows at some point the Moors were quite a powerful bloodline or group of bloodlines. And I've been following a lot of these groups and just watching, and occasionally I've commented and just put my little oar in there. But this week has been interesting because for all the wind and piss, what they've actually exposed themselves as in chasing the actual bloodlines is that those Johnny-come-latelys could very well be behind the New World Order. If not behind it, they're certainly playing their part. And of course, if you remember previous live streams where I've discussed the fact that you can clearly see in the monarchy on England, you can see that at different points they've put in dark-skinned placemen. The first of note being John of Gaunt, who of course wasn't a king, but he was behind a king, and he was probably one of the most powerful men in England for quite a long time. And I've pointed out the fact that when you actually look at the family, they're all gingers, except John of Gaunt. And the first point of note for a darker skinned guy being placed in the mix. And then, of course, we have Henry VIII. Again, another dark skinned guy who I have made clear was being a Tudor, killing Arthur, which I've been putting together a piece on Arthur actually, so we'll probably present that in the new year, just so that people can keep abreast of why I talk the way I talk, why I say what I say, in relation to what's actually gone on with the monarchs and the bloodlines. But you can clearly see the Tudors were put on there by the Holy See family, specifically the Pallavicini, through the House Stanley, and then the division on England that had been created through the Reformation basically became an headquarters for that, and then the entire Roman Christendom was divided. But in relation to this group that I've been just commenting on, bits and bats really, nothing too major, apart from this week, the latest claim is, and proof that the Moors were the power, is in the claim that Charles II was actually a Moorish geezer. And when you look at the images of him, big lips, strange looking fella, I'm inclined to agree. But what we've also looked at ourselves is the fact that though none of his children, because he didn't have any legitimate children, became a king, he had bastards coming out of every orifice. Suffice to say, specifically through his bastards through Marie de Medici, the majority of the aristocracy or landed gentry that we have here on Blighty today are in fact all related to that bloodline. And then you've got these Moor guys giving it the big Charles II, blah, 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 blah. I don't think they quite realise Charles II was just a puppet, a nonsense idea, just to satisfy the fact that Cromwell had sort of abolished the office of monarch in 1649. And so that Charles II was just a puppet. He was nobody, really. Just a shagger, basically. That's all he did, were shag. He was a bit of a Johnny-come-lately. But it didn't matter. People thought they had the monarch back and everybody were content, even though at that time they were very busy building up this new or not new, but they're putting the Babylonian system in here. So I pointed out the fact that actually with this claim and genealogy that they've cited and in their eyes proven, in evidence, that they've actually just cited themselves as actually being behind it or definitely playing a part in it. Silence. Silence, because if any of them have been doing their own work, it's pretty clear that what I pointed out to them is actually the case. So that put a bit of a bullet in their excitement at the fact that the Moors, in their eyes, of the first, the last, the bestest, the biggest, and that's it. And everybody else is a sort of an arsehole. It's because they do get carried away with this everything's Africa garbage, basically. I mean, when you actually get into all that stuff, what they're basically saying is that the first slave race were formed in Africa, not man, which they don't seem to be able to understand. I've also watched a couple of very interesting videos in relation to these African version of Islam. And honestly, these people are thick. I mean, they're so thick that when questioned by people that have studied this stuff, they've nothing to offer but screaming, shouting, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's quite ridiculous, which is important when you consider that the agenda that's playing out everywhere at the moment across Europe is to demolish Europe, demolish the nations, which is what the European Union's about. Get everybody under that mantle. There's no more France, there's no more Germany, there's no more Holland, there's no more England, etc. So at first they demolish the nation state by putting them under that umbrella, while they then knock everybody off and then start importing these subcultures from Asia. So that's Kazakhstan, you've got your Mongol bunch, You've got the Africans, which seems to be the main thrust because there's that many of them. And then all being administered by the Khazars. Which, again, you know, if you've studied the Khazar origin, which is basically that their tie into this system, it's got nothing to do with Semitism, it's got nothing to do with any peoples that lived in the Middle East and therefore spoke a language that's classed as Semitic. This was a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys in the Khazaria who converted to Judaism. Now, you know, if you've read the story, we don't need to go into detail with it, but basically, to cut it short, they didn't want to be apparently taken over by either the Christians or indeed the Muslims and chose Judaism. Now, what's missing from that story, of course, is the fact that the Babylonian or Second Temple priesthood made him an offer that if you chose Judaism, you can operate for us and you can operate for us in Europe. Now, I've mentioned before that from sources not only from Europe, but sources from within China, where their peoples, when they were off on the hoity-toits around Europe, were always warned about the name stealers. And of course, the name stealers then are, of course, those we today know as the Khazars. So they're only at an administrative level, which when you actually look at and listen to the garbage, only a fool could believe such nonsense that they hold dear. But of course, they're operating through Chabad Lubavitch and other various cults tied into this Second Temple priesthood, Talmudic Zohar theosophy. And so they do have power. But they're not the uber power, and I've no doubt at some point in time they'll be wiped out like everybody else because, of course, everything they believe is fruit bat. But nevertheless, we've still got the game going on today, and of course, the image at the beginning of this is the fact what they don't really like you to see much of is the Putin and Netanyahu are as thick as thieves, in the same way as Trump is as thick as thieves with Netanyahu, to the point over Christmas Trump's given a speech basically calling Netanyahu the greatest war president that's ever been and that he's perfect for it and he should be pardoned by the court system in Israel because, of course, he's up on all sorts of charges for embezzlement, fraud, etc. And Trump is bigging him up. Pardon him. So, but people really don't get that the fact that Putin is in the same boat. So you're looking at this Russia versus the world scenario, basically. It's just for public consumption. Now, I have said for years now that the real agenda when it comes to forming this third world war that they have full intention of forming is between political Zionism and political Islam. That is the third world war. So, why Russia? Why would the West then be looking to do battle with Russia if the Third World War isn't between the West and Russia, per se? Well, it's pretty simple. That looking at what they're doing in Europe, which is demolishing the nation states, which they've done under the European Union, and then killing off the Europeans, which they've done for a century and more in war, colonisation, etc., etc., but more importantly, it's the importation of all these foreign subcultures into Europe to dilute it. Now, they're not where they want to be right now because the white girls are not mating with these subcultures. At least not yet. For that to take place, to become a reality, they need to remove the white males. It's as simple as that. While there's white males there, the white females are going to go for the white males. Whether they stick with them or not and create a family, that's beside the point. When it comes to breeding, we all want our offspring to look like us, do we not? Yep. In the same way, Muhammad Ali, questioned by Parkinson in the 70s, said exactly that when he was asked about mixed race marriages by Parky, and he said, no, I want my offspring to look like me. Well, he used the term children because, of course, he weren't the brightest. And I think that's pretty much a genetic, natural law within us all. We each wish to breed with our own. Oh, no. Television for the last few years is forcing this new idea that every white female should be breeding with an African. Okay? And of course, they're not showing Africans from Africa. they're showing black guys that have been here for as long as God knows how long. But that's the stepping stone thing. It's the program. You've got all the white women now today thinking they have to be black, and they're putting foreskins of circumcised Jews and Muslims in the lips, clearly to copy and become a black guy. You've got porn picking it up everywhere, showing this idea that every black guy has a 25-inch donger, and that they all need to have it stuck up their ass. Well, that's fine if you're going to go with that and suck it up, then what can we say? But in general terms, some people are still going to want to breed with their own race. And so, naturally, the next phase in this game of replacement would be first to remove the white males. And then, of course, the only opportunities the females have is to allow themselves to be raped by these subcultures. But they're not thinking like that yet, although they might be starting to wake up to that because it's getting a little bit more important, especially if you live in a city. It's going on all over the shop. So this is basically the premise of this live stream. So what the hell is really going on with this gap year that they're offering? They don't say it, but of course it is specifically going to be to the white males because we are rather militaristic anyway. It's in our genes because we've been used by the empire for 5 centuries? 4 centuries, let's say. So it's already inherent in our genes anyway. If you've not been in the military, probably your great-granddad were, and they were probably all knocked off in the First World War. So it's there and it's latent, and that's what they're playing at. All these military commanders, commissioned officers, they're all Zionists. They're all one way or another tied into these bloodlines that are tied into these bastard lines of Charles II, or they're Hanoverian, or Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. Whichever way you look at it, they're foreign bastards. And just look at what they did in the First World War when they forced all our boys to jump out up in a trench, knowing full well that right across the whole horizon was about 15 million Germans with machine guns. But that didn't matter because, of course, they weren't trying to win the war. They were just kind of kill off all the English and French and Dutch. And not quite the Germans at that point, which is why the Germans had all the tech and the engineering, because that was the Second World War was earmarked to destroy the Germans. But first, in the First World War, let's thin out Europe's males, especially here on Blighty. But then the French got a good kick in as well. And that was the first setup. There was 3 world wars. Second World War, as I said, mainly about finishing off the Russian population after the Bolsheviks have been at it since 1917. And then to completely annihilate, by Holocaust, the Germanic race, which is what they did. And of course, who claims this Holocaust now? Well, this bunch of Ashkenazis, who, by the way, this deal with Putin and Netanyahu has got nothing to do with anything other than let's build you up there, Putin, my old boy, scare the living bejesus out of all the Europeans and whites, and let's militarize the nations. Okay? And I spoke about this years ago, that the real game, the real gig and war that they're aiming to collect and get going is with Iran. That's the game. You've got the rhetoric pumping up now in Iran by the mullahs and the nut jobs that run Iran on behalf of the same bunch that run Israel, which is basically all Russian Bolsheviks or Polish Bolsheviks like Milikowski or Netanyahu. Polish. His father was Polish, his grandfather was Russian, and he was brought up in New Jersey. Nothing to do with the Middle East. No Semitism in his language. It's Yiddish. And there's certainly no blood ties to the Middle East either. As is the same with all those that control and run Israel. And of course, the majority of people in Israel are Ashkenazi. Not Semites at all. And everybody can see today the way they behave when they're let loose. Okay, and it's nothing new. General Alderman were telling you all this in the the Second World War, as they were pouring out of Russia into Israel. This is what happens when you let these fruitcakes, these people that like to sacrifice children, yeah, they're cannibals, they're sexually twisted, they like to spit on Christians and anybody else that they feel they spit on. They have curses for churches. And I've actually seen, there was a guy in Accrington some years ago, a homeless guy, everybody seemed to love him, he'd been in the kibbutz in Israel, called John Walsh. Now, not the John Walsh that I knew as a friend who were homeless and an old schoolmate that I had as a compadre for a while. No, this is another guy called John Walsh, who everybody sort of misnomered. It was a very clever setup. And I saw him sat outside St. James's Church, spitting and cursing it. But yet still all the idiots, we'll give him this, we'll give him that. They put him in a flat, they gave him all the money for the stuff, the food, and he wrecked it, got pissed. And nobody's seen much of him these days. I don't know what he's doing. He's probably served his purpose anyway. But I've seen these cursed people, these people that throw curses at the churches. And it's a little bit more than spitting, I would say. Anyway, so that aside, the real game is the war between political Islam and political Zionism. And that they intend to bring about through war with Iran. Why? Because Iran's tied to China. Iran has also been supported by Russia. But of course, it's a fake-up. And China, in its entirety, only exists because of the credit and tech from America. So is China its own gig? No, it's not. Absolutely. It's just a fake-up. It's a facade to form this divide in the world so they can get this war together. So this game with Putin, what I'm saying is, all this that's going on now, this fear-mongering, etc., all centred around Ukraine, has got nothing to do with this is the coming war. This is about militarising Western European nations. That's all it's about. Getting it ready, getting it set up, getting the mindset going on so that the kids think, let's go and join the military. We're going to protect our nation. You're not protecting your nation, guys. This is just a facade to get you ready and in line for when Israel gets snotted and declares war on everybody that's not rabbinical Judaism. Not the Mosaic law, of course. There is a distinction. We've discussed that many times over these last few live streams. So, that is the plan. I've even written a tune about it so that people can get it in your head. This is just militarising the system. The war itself is down there. And Milikowski, of course, as Trump says, the greatest war president that's ever been, is the man. Which is why he's not going to go to court and get done. And because Trump King Cyrus has said pardon him, he's probably going to get pardoned. So that's the game. That's the situation. And right now, they want your offspring. Your stupid offspring, because of course, as a parent, you were probably stupid and you didn't teach them. Now's your time to teach your offspring what's really going on. And they're aiming from 16 to 25. So there is the platform to spend a bit of effort. I mean, just even leafleting cars all over the shop would suffice. They need to see it. They need it in their mind that this is how it's playing out. Because it's twofold. Get rid of the white males, breed with these subcultures. Not only get rid of the breeding with the subcultures, when there's less white males here, these subcultures can start getting brave. And if you think it's bad now with this rape and theft and all this garbage and macheting, you ain't seen nothing yet. Alright? Of course, the white males will probably arise at some point and decide we've had enough. And that can't come sooner, in my opinion. Let's be frank about it, you know. But of course, between that and them is these dicks in uniforms called the police. A police officer. Nothing to do with constabulary. Policy enforcers. And they're obviously thick as pig shit. And they haven't realised yet that actually they're protecting the very force that down the line is going to come, shag your daughter, give you funny coloured offspring, and basically take over your estate in readiness for it to be jumped off into the no-wide system. You get the picture. You can see the gig as it going. That is exactly what's going on. And it's about time people started to reckon with that. Merry Christmas. Right, who's joined us? And then we'll just go through some of these images that I've put together just to cement what I'm saying. And a bit of fun and games going on in the EU, which we'll look at as well. The whore of Babylon, the bitch faggot that I can't stand, and I suppose none of you can either. It looks like it's all coming undone for that one. Right. CW posted evening Sean and evening the White Salem. Evening to you, Janie. John says, wave your hand. Evening, John. Mark says, evening Sean and all. Evening, Mark. Kerry says, love from Ireland. Evening, Sam. Where are we there? Upward says, good evening, Sean and all. I'm looking forward to being with my fellow Wise Asylum inmates tonight. Welcome and evening to you, Upward, and it's always a pleasure to have you join us as well. Paula says, hi everyone, evening Paula, and hello to you. Akel says, aloha everyone. Aloha to you, Kel, and welcome. Pedram says, good evening, Pedram. Good evening from lightning, thunder and rain in Iran. No war, it's natural. Evening to you, Pedram. I don't know whether you've noticed, but the old rhetoric is raising itself up there in your good old Iran. Kel says, good morning. So I have a funny feeling how Kel there is from the other side at gig, either New Zealand or indeed Australia. But I think aloha, it's a Kiwi gig, isn't it? There you go. Upper says, Mark Orford, good to see you, mate. Okay. Kel says 8 a.m. there, so yeah, we're guessing you're over there, my old China. He's got a beard now, says Kel. I have indeed. I have joined the Fuzzy Face Club. I've just got it to a point where it's not feeling like I've got wire brush sticking out my face. It's getting a little bit comfy. I have actually cocked it up on the sides. I've got a new machine thing, and I got a bit excited and I fucked it up. So I'm going to have to regrow some to just make it look good. Somebody said I look like Wolverine's brother, and I have no idea who Wolverine is, or indeed who his brother is. So I have no idea what that is. So what do you think of the fuzzy face? Is it suited? I'm certainly getting good comments from out here in the real world. Even said it makes me look younger, by golly. Can you believe it? So how can I look younger than 22? I don't know. It's beyond me. But never mind. It's all looking groovy. Good vid, says John. Thanks, John. Paula says, good evening, Sean and fellow inmates of the Wise Asylum. Good evening, Paul. Not Paula. Paul. Sorry, Paula. Paul. Victoria, New South Wales. Border here in Oz. Ah, okay. Sound is good, says Upward. Thanks for that, Upward. Hacksaw skills. Okay, what's that mean? Hacksaw skills, I think that's meant to say. Where are we? Whitey's open system and keeps inventing open systems like the internet. When you are a pack decaying elites operating in closed system slave trap, you can't have Whitey around helping crabs escape. I would suggest the Matrix. Well, they're not a decaying elite. This idea that people have that there's a decaying elite, they're not decaying at all, and their plan's working like a dream. The decadence, the undoing is the system that everybody's dependent on. That's the issue. But believe you me, the elites are as in control as they've ever been, and because of course they've got everybody pissing around on the bottom end and seeing that, seeing this, seeing that, so that you don't see that. It works. It's always worked, and it's still working. So don't kid yourself that it's a decaying elite. It's a shifting elite, but it's not a decaying elite. Not yet. Where are we going? Anthony says, evening, Sean. Oh, evening to the whole, Sean, my friends, and of course the Seekers. Evening to you, Anthony. We had a good Christmas. Old slippery dick, Henry VIII. Yes, absolutely. June Gower says, good evening, Sean and chat. Evening, June. Solvamates, hello. Inmates and Kel from South Australia. Evening, Solvamates. Or morning to you over there, my old China. I went to school with a girl with the surname Moore here in Oz, and she did tan up well and had skinny legs. Arms like a tribal person. Interesting. Okay, okay. John gives it wavy hand. Yes, the concept of the wheel escapes them. They're a bit strange, some of these African people. I have to tell you what, they're backward. Don't cut it. I mean, I'm not talking about black guys, because I don't class black guys born in the West as Africans, to be quite honest. You know what I mean? You're as sound as us, and our affinity is in the muse, of course. So, but these Africans, they're not right. I mean, some of them are nice guys. You can tell that they're actually decent guys, but Some of them are a little bit off and weird, and you won't take them home to meet grandma, would you? Let's be honest. I mean, the only way a white male can deal with this kind of stuff is when you're in the streets and you're seeing these guys stirring around, you stir fucking back and let them know that, hey, we're not all fucking pussies just because you were told that before you come. If you're going to step out of line here, pal, you're going to get your head caved in or something similar. You know, you can't let them get away with that, because if they get brave, then you're going to have to get stuck in proper fisticuffs. Remember, it's all psychology at this stage. Don't let them think that they're frightening you. Right, where are we? Oh, that shot up. Kel says, converted in 749 AD. Interesting to note, multiple explorers reported the Central Asian shamanic religion from Lake Baikal back in the Caucasus was basically Satanism. Well, the Caucasus was sort of a root point for the Aryan, Indo-European Aryans, wasn't it? Anthony Thomas says, authentic me, 'tis all. Look up the Heavenly Jerusalem project to depopulate Ukraine and move Israel there. Chabad Lubavitch plan both Putin and Trump have Chabad all around them. Well, it's not just them two. They all have it. It's just here on Blighter, it's so secretive, you just don't get to see it. But it's the same thing. It's the Second Temple priesthood. That's exactly what it is. And they are separate from the Torah followers, but they're the inner circle bunch that control that. And now, of course, they control Christianity, and they've controlled Islam since it started, because Islam is full of the Talmud. Now, I saw an interesting video on the Facebook where a Muslim guy were asking a Jew questions, and he's on about genocide, and he's going through it. Yeah, he was going through it, and he were honest with the Jews. Yeah, we're allowed to do that. And I think where the Muslim came unstuck a little bit, because he's probably not read it, he made the claim that, well, there's nothing like that in our book, which unfortunately there is. It's just not worded. It doesn't use the same words as the Talmud, but it does speak, if you go on the original translation of the Arabic, kill all non-believers, yeah. Whereas the sanitized version that they're all operating on since, I think, 1921 or 22 uses the term fight. But no, the inner circle of Islam will be using the original, which is kill. So it does speak in those terms, but more importantly, what it does speak of no uncertain terms is how to enslave the enemy. So it might not talk in the same way that the rabbinical Jews do about annihilate everybody, but it does speak in terms of kill, and it does speak also in terms of enslave everybody that you go to war with. So I got it. I got what he was saying, and it was good that because he believed that that's what it was. But again, and I've said this before, most Muslims have never read it. They completely depend on the imams. Well, there's your problem, basically. So John says the adverts are programming the next generation. Absolutely. I'd say before World War III, to be quite honest. The sooner they can get it going, the better. So Mew says, Waynetta slob wants a black baby like all other mums on the estate. Who the hell's Waynetta slob? I don't have a clue what you're talking about there, Mew, but yep, that's what they're pushing. Well, why would you put circumcised foreskins in your lips if you weren't trying to mimic? I mean, I went for another tattoo removal session. Just before Christmas. And I was talking to the lass that's doing it, and obviously you know what it's like. It's a big salon that does all the foreskin injections and all that stuff. And so I just said to her, I said, what is it? Why are all white women starting to look like they want sticking to a window? And she just said, well, and I said to her, I said, see, are they trying to be black? She said, you know what? She said, you might be right there. She said, because in younger generations, they sort of have this idea that black women are beautiful, more beautiful. And I said, well, that's utter shit. I said, that's absolute garbage. I said, they're not. I said, and then, even if they look good, have you heard the gob? I said, even black men won't stick with them. I said, so why would white women be doing that? And she just laughed and agreed. She said, yeah, it's a bit stupid. I said, but if they're thinking that the white race is not as good looking as black, where have you been living? What kind of council estate have you lived on? But even in the council estates, there's some good looking white birds, so I don't know what the fuck. But honestly, it's just, and I said to her, I said, you know, as a male, I said, don't we talk? I said, we don't like it. I said, I've never met a male that likes this big lip shit that they've got going on. I said, it's ridiculous. They look stupid. And I said, I don't get it. So, yeah. Kel says, Zog's upset white males aren't lining up to die for Zog this time. But the problem is, the younger generation's not getting this stuff. Don't forget, they don't have dad there anymore. They've only got mum, who's too busy playing with your lips. And whatever else it is that interests her, nails, and all that shit. She don't really give a shit what's happening with kids, and she's certainly not teaching them now. She just puts telly on, gets them a PlayStation. So, really a disadvantage here. 20% of Australian males' population died in World War One. I don't know, there were a lot that you guys were getting stuck into Vietnam as well. Majority of the white males in on Blighty were killed in World War One, and what people don't realise is from 1865 or 1880, I can't remember exactly. There were a massive importation of Russian Ashkenazi out of the pogroms across the year and America. And of course, once all the white males were taken, you were pretty much left with an entire Freemasonic order filled with these Bolshevik Russians. And we've been through the protocols. It's very clear that Freemasonry is rabbinical Judaism in the West. And so anybody that's a Freemason is actually the problem, because they're the very people that have allowed this new system to come in. Of course, they're in there and thinking they're going to scoop it up and benefit from it, which pretty much tells you the kind of characters that are in there. But not only that, the protocols said, didn't they, what kind of characters they were pulling in. The weak, the pathetic, the materialistic. People that were assholes, basically. So it even tells you in the protocols, and we've been through them. Right, where are we again? Pedro says, I have urged young Iranian martial arts men of my paternal mountain village, Esfarjan, when they sought advice last week, war or not, stay and defend the village, or Afghans take all our forest gardens. Yeah, you've got a problem with Afghans there, haven't you? Well, we have here, it's just quiet, but amongst the Muslim community, they're not. They've been causing a lot of trouble. And Mew puts right, raise Mew there. Thanks, Mew. Facebook let me keep it up for some reason lately. I don't know what's going on there. When the Saxon began to hate, says Kel. Do you think we're Saxons? Okay. Someone says, Sean, about Bondi, if I may say one thing, the photo of Arsen Ofrovsky with fake blood all over his face did it for me. Yeah, and I have a couple of images for you to look at tonight as well that pretty much clearly show you it's symbolising masonry. So I'll show you that. We have a few little gigs to go through, but yeah, absolutely. Now, Facebook put a warning on that, or took it off and said basically it's false. Well, you know, and then it just got worse, showing that it was real, you know, so I don't know what that were about. Well, we do, don't we? Millicountry's demanded every government does what it's told. Because every government's corporate and every government's responsible for the people in the nation, or the persons. And everything's backdoored on the infrastructure, so when Milikowski says, oi! Everybody goes, oh! All the corporate billocks do anyway. Yeah, absolutely solving me. You're quite right. Wolverine was that Aussie actor, I can't remember his name. I'm not an Aussie. Not that I have anything against Aussies, of course. Evening upward, I miss your greeting until Sean read it out. John says, get a Remington. No, I got this one. It's good, and I looked everything up. A Phillips, by golly. Actually, I don't buy Phillips normally. But when I was looking, this and a Panasonic came out on top. And I have to say, it's pretty damn bloody good. Obviously, it's just the guy who's using it that's shit. Do you know why? My eyes are crap. I can't see. I used to be able to see every hair on my face 10 years ago. And now, this is an interesting gig. So, DMSO, I've got loads of it. And recently I've been looking at some a little bit deeper. And apparently it's been cited as really good for your eyes. It can actually restore your eyes. Now, you don't have to put it on your eyeballs, but you can. But I think you have to get the dye, sort of the mix correct. You don't want to be burning your eyes out. But basically, whenever you put it on your body, and there's different parts of your body that will absorb it better than others. So your neck, for instance, will absorb it quick. And it seems to gather in your eyes. So wherever you put in it, it will actually go to your eyes. So I've started putting it under here, because it's supposed to get rid of the darkened bags, which I still have under there. So I'll let you know how it works, but it's supposed to actually give a massive effect on your sight. So I'll keep you informed. Where are we? What first aid person doesn't wipe blood off the face while applying bandage? Well, of course. I don't know. Alex Soros isn't a pinch on Daddy George. Henry Kissinger et al. Don't really have replacements. Well, they're on their own, out there on their own, aren't they, them guys? They will be there, they'll probably be in the background. Pedro says, I thought Khazar Empire were a derivative of Mongolians. Look at Putin, Brzezinski, David Rockefeller, Lenin, Trotsky, Brezhnev, and almost all of the Soviet Union bosses all had Mongoloid features. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. Now, I picked up a load of data to show that Stalin is actually a Rothschild, but with a Mongolian mother. Same with Mao of China. Again, a Rothschild sired with a Chinese mother. Where were we there? Yeah, I agree. I think the Khazarian enclave was a stronghold of what you might say Eastern Asiatics. So yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely, Pedram. I absolutely would. Kel says, lol, yeah, black women and Indian men are the least popular people on every dating site app statistically. And I don't think that black people realise just how much they're hated in Russia. In China and even the Japanese. They can't stand the black race. And they need to keep their eyes on that. Which is why China's taking over Africa. They despise you. But yeah, it's not good. Harry Enfield Sean, comedy 30 years ago, programming. Is that, what did you call her? Henrietta, something? Anyway. Alright, got you. Oh, Harry Enfield. Now, he's serious bloodline as well. I did have a piece on him on one of old websites. Yeah, so that wouldn't surprise me. Someone says, maybe more black women should hook up with more Indian men. Just saying. I mean, I've met some really nice black women in my time, but they seem to have a bit of a white race input as well, and sometimes they can be beautiful. But it's, what can I say? Wire wool. Bit wire wool. Anyway, less said about that, the better. John says, when there is a digital ID, it will be conscripted or have bank account universal credit size or seized. Well, they're struggling with that at the moment, John, in truth. I think what the biggest problem is, as I discussed last week, AI is basically now taking over the entire internet. I mean, my Facebook now is so pathetic. I get nothing. Nothing. It's same, just keeps repeating. Then it goes off and it stops and it's to start again. So they've really screwed up my Facebook. And it's since the other week when I was telling you about that conversation I had with. So, interesting. Not that I give a shit anyway. Kel says, oh yes, the Freemasons themselves call it the Hebrew Brotherhood. Bedram says, perhaps it is what it takes to get out of the banker's matrix. Well, I'm not sure what you mean there, brother. John gives it a thumbs up. Kel says, English author Rudyard Kipling wrote a famous poem called When the Saxon Began to Hate, seemingly predicting current conditions. Oh, okay. Thanks for that, Kel. Jenny55 says, on my way too late. Oh, I'm way too late. So just a quick hello. Hope you all had a great week, and I'll watch replay tomorrow. No worries, Jane, and I hope you had a good gig. Pedram says, boots and fort duty is also relevant to us people under War Games PSYOP. John says, in Asia, when a group of blacks enter an establishment, the whole place empties. Yeah, they have a serious problem, don't they? With them. Last week, I ditched remainder of self-censorship indoctrinated race care is a duty of care for any people. Well, it certainly is, yeah. I mean, the white race has been so demolished in the last, since 60s. Mentally. It's ridiculous. But you can't blame anybody else. I mean, people go on and go, what are they doing? Well, look, you've recognised that these people do this to you because that's what they do. I mean, let's back to the old Yeshua gig. He doesn't speak in parables. He speaks in equity. He keeps it in equity. He's speaking, but ensuring that he's affording the right to his opponents to have the right to choose to be what they chose to be. Because as a man in equity, you don't have the right to tell another man what to do. Equity is so important that people understand it. And that's why you'll never reach it. If you're still blaming, it's because you've not recognised that they have the right to be and choose to be that. But you also, in your equity, have the right to not do everything you can to prevent them from affecting you. That's your game. That's your equity. You can either choose to suffer it and take it, because you can't be asked to do anything different, or you choose your own equity and right to do everything you can so that you don't have to use this stuff. You don't get scuppered by this stuff. And more importantly, you don't get scuppered by the bullshit and the lies like 2020. So, fault? No, it's just that the people have been so off the mark and chasing fantasy that this other force, these people that have chosen to be assholes, have just got into everything. Face that. You know, decrying them all the time like a baby. It's not going to work. Use your equity. And don't move in a way that lessens the effect it has on you. It's all you can do. It's all you can do. Which is why everything has to be consensual from their perspective. That's them giving you your right to equity, to choose. And, you know, people go, yeah, but we had no choice. No, you had the choice not to comply, and you fucked it. Because fear is your gig. So when they threw fear about you, you fell for it. Ignorance. My people are destroyed through lack of knowledge. Ignorance was another part of what played in that game. You didn't understand your own rights, your own position, your own equity, your own standing. It beat you because you believed what they said because you didn't have the knowledge. But that's on you. It's on everybody. We're choosing. So when people go, oh, what they're doing? No, they're doing what they do because that's what they do. It's how they do it. It's what they've chose to be. Yeah, it's not your job to change their mind. It's like me doing this. It's not my job to change their mind. They're happy. It's my job to try and help you guys wake the fuck up to what you haven't been doing and why you're getting stuck in this stuff. You're not in your own equity. You've not freed yourself because you're not taking your impulse from within. You know, this, you know, obviously being Christmas, you've got all this fucking Jesus shit everywhere. Show me in the fucking gospel where Jesus claims to be the Son of God. He fucking doesn't. Ever. And Jesus as a word, it's a misfucking norma. And I'm going to show you something. In fact, we'll do that now. Just take a look at this and see what you think, okay? In relation to why they've used the word Jesus to describe a guy that were clearly called Yeshua. Where are we? Okay. Now, in the Hebrew, Yeshua, meaning is derived. Are you getting that? Are you lot seeing that? Yeah, you will be, won't you? Right. Meaning, derived from the Hebrew root for to save or deliverance. Translating to, it's not Yahweh saves your salvation. Now, can you see how, no matter where you go in this stuff, they screw you. But that's on you for being ignorant so that you don't see it, okay? Yeshua has got fuck all to do with Yahweh. Nothing at all, in any way, shape or form. So what we're looking at is Yeshua, and it means from the Hebrew to save or deliverance, okay? It's fucking nothing to do with translating Yahweh. But if you have not got the knowledge, you're ignorant, because that was your choice, then you're going to go with the second bit. So they've shafted you again. They've given you a bit of a lift out, but then re-trap you. Yeah? Or you've trapped yourself. So Yeshua means to save or deliverance, okay? And then Yeshua's old mission was to show you, if you start to take your sucker from inside the kingdom of the Father, because we're in his image, you will be able to start to transform your life back in sync with the Father of the beginnings, okay? Remember, Yahweh is a God. Yeah. Yeshua had nothing to fucking do with that. He came to decry that bollocks, all right? Now, usage, a historically accurate Hebrew form of Jesus' name, common in Jewish tradition for people named Joshua. Context, used in a positive context, reflecting the belief in Jesus as the Messiah. Now, you can see that AI has formed this, okay? So AI is full of shit. You cannot trust AI at all. Now, Yeshua, and then you've got Yeshu, which is what the rabbinical Jews call him, right? Meaning, an acronym for Yimak Shimo Visikro, may his name and memory be obliterated. Right? Usage, a pejorative term used by those who oppose Jesus, found in some historical Jewish texts. Modern context, many Israelis use Yeshu secularly as a shortened version of Yeshua, unaware of its original insulting meaning. They're very fucking aware of what it is, yeah? So Yeshua is the name, Yeshu is the curse. Now, look at Yeshua and look at Yeshu. Which one is the word Jesus closest to? You get me? So, how many centuries have people been going, praise be to Jesus? So, what have you actually been doing? You've actually been bringing the curse in to the liturgy. And Malachi Martin, what did he say? He was making it clear that the evil has took root in the Vatican. And people think, well, that's all the fault of the priests and the bishops. Well, it is. But if every single body of the flock for centuries has been calling on this curse and pulling that, does it make sense? So everybody's to blame because they didn't choose their own equity and didn't educate themselves and believed shit. Anyway, that's the take there. I just want you to take that on board and think and see how you feel about that. Now, there was just one more I wanted to change in here. And I bet I forgot what it is. Let me just see if I can find it, because... which one were it? Oh, I changed the name. There we go. So, back to what I was saying at the beginning about... The real game is about... Between Milikowski and that Johnny come lately there, standing over Pedram's gig. So in this week, while all this Putin, blah, 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 the gap and all that's going on, we've got this Iran in the past weeks has been conducting large-scale missile drills across the country, and Israel is freaking out. Of course, Israel supplied everything because the elite in Iran are operating for this same force, as Pedram will tell you. What at all is Israel's problem here? Iran is carrying out these military exercises to defend themselves, and Israel playing the victim as usual. Israel is concerned that Iran may carry out preemptive strikes against Israel, which Iran will never do. The Prime Minister of Israel, Ben-Zion Milikowski, because that's his real name, who is seeking a coordinated US-Israel strike against Iran, warned Iran of any attack against Israel. I would like to warn Iran against taking action against Israel, says Donald Epstein. Iran taking any preemptive strikes against Israel is unlikely. Israel taking any preemptive strikes against Iran is very high, at maybe 90%. What do you think? Feeling positive at Africa, whoever that is. Now, another gig that's been thrust around this week is this: Donald Trump's been bombing Africa, Ghana and Niger, I think. Well, what they don't tell you in the mainstream blag is that actually there's 4 nations in that area that have kicked out the French colonisers and have pretty much become self-governing. And, of course, ISIS and ISIL is political Islamists trained by Mossad, CIA, and financed by the same, are in there to cause trouble within those nations to stop them from kicking out the colonisers and becoming self-governing. So Trump, of course, has given this idea that they're bombing ISIL and ISIL. Well, they're not. What are they actually bombing there? Have they just bombed some of these political activists and leaders in this recent moves in these African countries getting the French colonisers out? It's all smoke and mirrors all the time. And all that the media have to do is omit data. Just like we've said about people like Alex Jones, all these big wigs that everybody bigs up because they're giving you data. They're giving you loads of fucking data. But it's what they don't tell you, because then you don't get the full picture. So, prime example, what they've just done in Africa. You're not getting the full picture. You don't see what's really just happened there. It's a good example, is that. Now, what else have I got? So, Bishop Schneider, Freemasonry stands as one of the greatest enemies of Christ. Freemasonry stands as one of the greatest enemies of Christ and his church, says Bishop Schneider. And this, again, is over Christmas. Okay, so this is a proper Catholic, I would say, a true one. Not this Johnny-come-lately Vatican II shit. Now, in the times of Israel also, we've had Putin, first Soviet government, was mostly Jewish. 19 as 2013, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that at least 80% of the members of the first Soviet government were Jewish. Acknowledged. He knows it. He were working for him. He were a rent boy before that. He had big lips. Probably had foreskins inserted. And now we've got, I demand that Western governments do what's necessary to fight anti-Semitism and provide security and safety for Jews worldwide, said Milikowski. They would be well advised to heed our warnings. I demand action from them now. Who the fuck is this twat? And more to the point, why are our governments copying? Now, here you go, Masonic Bondi Beach shooting. Look at the symbolism. On the left, you've got the so-called arsewipe. And on the right, you've got the pillars of Freemasonry in the background, something kind of angelic. Now, I don't know what that is in the background, but there's a bin there, so it's showing it's a shit show. But there you go. There's a symbolism for you Psalmists, just to add. His original name is David Coleman. He's Jewish and Israeli, but obtained from the information found this link. He's travelled from Australia via Philippines as an Indian national. That meant India secretly assisted him from launching a false flag in Australia. So that's the guy that carried it out. Why is Mossad taking over the investigation of an attack on Australian soil against Australians? See, this is another way that these bastards get in and start to dictate. It's like the SS. You know, in Germany, you had all your military, you had all your domestic police force, and then all of a sudden, in come the Gestapo and the police, in come the SS and take command. That's exactly what Mossad's doing in Australia. Should teachers be trained to spot signs of misogyny in boys? This is this toxic masculinity gig they've got going on. I've responded to a few on the Facebook for that. It didn't go down very well, but one of them ended up being a very lengthy interaction, and a lot of people started to get it. Now, Donald Trump visiting Vatican, where he could only be accompanied by senior members of the Knights of Malta, and here we can see him with Benedetto Orsini. See, these are the families that are running this shit show. The Ashkenazi are just puppets. Now, Ben Gvir, Israelis spitting on Christians, is an old Jewish tradition. Oh, well, that's okay then. Is it? You know, why are people letting these chits get away with this? You know, if I were down on the street and somebody spat on me, it wouldn't be good. Spitting on Christians is a Jewish custom. It's a good time to mention that spitting near priests or church is an ancient Jewish custom, and there is even a special blessing in Jewish law that should be recited when you see a church. It's not a blessing, it's a fucking curse. As I said, I saw one of the Johnny-come-latelys, who everybody loved because he was homeless, doing the very same to St. James's Church quite a few years ago. So that's one bunch of images I thought we'd look at. Now, I now want to look at... Where are we? I think I've missed something. Right, now, my favourite... So there's a strategic friendship between Netanyahu and Putin. It's a ruse to take back the land for the Khazars, which is the Ukraine, and to militarise all European and Western nations. Not for war with Russia, but for when Milikowski decides to attack Iran. Okay? Whether that be from within Iran. Now, this bitch, von der Leyen, Jewish history is European history. Jewish culture is European culture. Or is it? I don't fucking think so. President of the EU Commission. I don't like this bitch at all. And I don't think anybody in Europe likes her either. EU President calls free speech a virus and pushes censorship as the vaccine. So this is back in the time. But this is the kind of language that this whore is speaking. We're all Jewish. Oh, are we? No, you lot are. And I'm speaking about rabbinical Judaism, not followers of the Torah. So these are the fake Jews, the Ashkenazi. Now also people need to recognise that the EU would gain full power over Britain in the net zero energy deal that Jimmy Savile's vagina and the one in the wings to take over for him, an equally arsewipe Zionist, Miliband, of pushing through. And this is the Israeli victim card. If, as an Israeli, if I'm accused of something, I'm not criminally responsible. Any accusations against me will be considered anti-Semitism. And if in doubt, please refer to the Holocaust. It's the get-out-to-jail-free card. Because it works, because people are ignorant of what actually was the Holocaust in the Second World War, which was clearly the destroying and killing of the entire Germanic race. Right. Browser. Now, this is that Ursula von Bitchfaggot. Okay, I'm sorry I'm swearing at Christmas, but Christmas is finished now. We're back on. And we have to start as we mean to go on through the year as the new son is birthed within at least, and obviously I'm still swearing like a trooper. But who cares? Right, listen to this. Where is it? Oh.
The session began as a standard debate on the 2026 budgetary framework. But Viktor Orban, representing the Hungarian presidency of the Council, did not bring a speech. He brought a dossier, a thick black binder labelled simply the shadow budget. This was a calculated ambush. Orban didn't shout. He spoke with terrifying calmness. He turned to the presiding officer and cited Article 325 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, the clause regarding fraud against the Union's financial interests. The ghost transaction, 4.2 billion euros. Then he dropped the nuclear option. Orban held up a document dated September 14th, 2025. It wasn't a public record. It was a leaked internal memo from the Budgetary Control Committee, COENT. Madame President, Orban said, looking directly at von der Leyen, can you explain to this House where the 4.2 billion euros allocated for the Emergency Energy Transition Fund actually went? The hall went dead silent. This money was supposed to support Eastern European infrastructure, but Orban's data showed something else entirely. He revealed a transaction string, wire transfer ID, EUX99LUX, showing the funds were not sent to Warsaw or Budapest. Instead, They were routed through a subsidiary of a massive consultancy firm based in Delaware, USA, with an operational branch in Luxembourg. The conflict of interest connection. The accusation got personal immediately. Orban didn't stop at the money. He connected the dots. He alleged that the consultancy firm in question, Greenstrat Global, lists on its board of advisors, a name that froze the blood of the EPP, European People's Party, Heiko von der Leyen. The insinuation was clear and brutal.
Right, and obviously we're using this for investigative purposes, so I don't suggest or hope that we're going to breach anybody's copyright. So, let's just have another reminder of who this wench is. 4.2 billion of EU money being sent to Delaware. Now, Delaware acts as the inner city of London for the United States. It's a very old place and system, and every single Second Temple PCI has every single headquarters in Delaware, okay? But did you notice the name of the other companies? A fucking husband. Right? So, she shot herself and left very, very quickly. But let's just remind ourselves who this woman is.
Europe is the values of the Talmud. The Jewish sense of personal responsibility, of justice, and of solidarity.
Personal responsibility. And they're taking responsibility for it. The Talmud slave, Noahide. She is a PCI whore. And she's just been bagged for 4.2 billion sent to Delaware. Ooh. She's a rich little girlie. This is how they work, these shitheads. Now, this is the Armed Forces gap year gig. Let's just have a little look at it properly and then we can see exactly what they're up to. Armed Forces to launch gap year. Let me just check that we can see that. Make that a little bit bigger. So this is on the UK Gov. Armed Forces to launch gap year scheme for young people to bolster skills and leadership. Armed Forces, Ministry of Defence, Louise Sandher Jones MP and the Right Honourable John Healey MP. So whoever them tossers are, make sure their little bastards are going in there. Okay? As well. Make sure they're little shitbag children, because they're probably not offspring, they'll be weirdos. Make sure they're on the list wherever Louise Sandher Jones is an MP and John Healey MP. The two talking heads, yeah? Get these names in your mind and let's get... Who are they? How many kids have they got? And what's their intentions? Are they at private schools? Oh, we can't do that. We're far too posh. Yes. Britain's young people will be given new opportunities to experience military service through a gap year foundation scheme set to launch in 2026. A first wave of around 150 participants will open for recruitment from early 2026, offering young people a year of paid experience and training in the armed forces across the Army, Royal Navy and Royal Air Force. Ministers have an ambition to eventually grow the scheme to over 1,000 young people, subject to interest, so they're testing the water. The scheme, which will launch in March, will offer young people bespoke training courses aimed at giving them skills and attributes to set them up for success in either military or civilian life. Oh yeah, they're creating the brown shirts, ladies and gentlemen. Bolstering their employability or providing a route into an exciting career in the armed forces. The scheme will equip those who may be unsure of their career direction with problem solving, teamwork and leadership skills, as well as offering unique opportunities including undergoing basic training or experienced life at sea. It forms part of a government drive towards a whole-of-society approach to defence, a key theme of this year's Strategic Defence Review, reconnecting the public with those who serve, strengthening awareness of the role the armed forces play, and giving the next generation the skills and experience to unlock their potential. I don't think there's any divide whatsoever between our armed forces and us civilians. We love them. The scheme is informed by the success of the Australian Defence Force's ADF Gap Year scheme, which was cited in the UK Government Strategic Defence Review as an exciting model from which to learn, and has been running for over a decade. So obviously everything gets tested somewhere, and you poor Aussies have got it first. I don't know how that's working. Solvemist, any ideas, or even Kel? How's that played out there in Oz? The announcement follows a rallying cry from the head of the Armed Forces, Sir Richard Knighton, who has set out the need for a whole nation response to an increasingly volatile and uncertain world. Defence Secretary John Healey MP said, "This is a new era for defence." That means no fence, by the way. Okay? As soon as they had the Ministry of Defence, it was the Ministry to remove the fence around Blighty. D, in legal language, means no. Okay? That's what it means. So remember that. Ministry of Defence means the Ministry to remove the fence. And what's happened? The fence is finished. Subcultures have poured in. So, John Healey is the bastard ensuring the subcultures come in, and now they want to conscript. I mean, they're not conscripting now, it's an offer, but you make no mistake about it. That's where they're going. They need to get it embedded in your heads first, mum and dad. Or mum, because dad's usually playing with himself somewhere. This gap year scheme will give Britain's young people a taste of the incredible skills and training on offer across the Army, Royal Navy and RAF. It's part of our determination to reconnect society with our forces. Reconnect society. We aren't not connected. I think what you're trying to say there, son, is the armed forces themselves, below commissioned officer level, have disconnected from you commanding asswipes, because we know you work for Zion and Milikowski. And that's the disconnect. And that's good. And drive a whole of society approach to our nation's defence. Warfooting, they used to call it. As families come together at this time of year and young people think about the futures, I want the outstanding opportunities on offer in our armed forces to be part of that conversation in homes across the UK. But not on social media. Minister for Veterans and People, Lewis Sander Jones MP, said, so he's the man responsible for fucking you up, throwing you out on the street, and not giving a shit. But now they want you back. Now they want you to reconnect. So they've got you as a spy, a recruiter, because now they love you again all of a sudden. Forget what we did to you. Never mind what we did to you since Gulf War and all that. We had to do that because we didn't want anybody to know that because we vaccinated you and gave you Gulf War syndrome. But now we want you back because we have use for you. Come back to the colours. As a veteran, he's a veteran. As a veteran, I know how invaluable the skills and experience gained by serving in the armed forces are, not only in a military career but in a civilian life. It means, okay. This scheme will provide a fantastic opportunity for school leavers and young adults to develop their potential, learn new skills, and contribute to our nation's security. They keep talking about our nation's security, and I've been all over the forces stuff just saying, well, actually, wouldn't that mean stopping these subcultures coming in? Would it not mean stopping these UN soldiers coming in? And basically, would that not mean arresting every bastard talking head down in childcare Westminster, including the fake fucking king and his bald, long-haired son? Because that's the only danger to the fucking nation's security. And because you're doing nothing, you are also the fucking problem. They don't like that, but I don't give a fuck what they like. I'm not here to satisfy the fucking urges and egos of the PCI Second Temple fucking priesthood. All the while building resilience, teamwork and leadership skills that will serve them for life. As well as broad leadership skills, the Armed Forces Foundation Scheme will be designed to deliver transferable skills to careers outside of the Armed Forces, which will bolster national resilience. For example, working alongside supply chain specialists in the Army, or engineers on Royal Navy ships will provide the skills needed for success in logistics and engineering roles. Initially operating as a pilot, the scheme is expected to scale and increase capacity, offering the experience of life in the armed forces without commitment beyond the course. Share this page. Fuck off, is my response. But, I've shared it, haven't I? Oh, never mind, I've shared it, so up my own ass to go as usual, but never mind, we're used to that. Now, that's basically all I've pulled together for this, because I thought we're not going to bore you stupid with stuff. We'll just basically talk about what's actually going on. Anybody got anything to say about that malarkey? Oh, where are we going? Let me try and find where we got to. Okay, let's go. Wow. Right, so we got to that. Right, we got to that. Right, I got to that as well. Right, Kel says, when I was travelling through rural Laos, I had several little kids cry when they saw me because they had never seen Whitey before. Really? Interesting. Kel says, they think we are ghosts. Oh, okay. Fear is just an offer. No need to take it on. Fear is for entertainment purposes. Only spiritually. You, me, we are eternal. Now, exactly. Now, this is another thing, because obviously, one of the first things I'm going to do as we get into this new year is set up the next second Zoom for the people that were at the conference. And this is what you need to start to think in terms of, ladies and gentlemen, that are on that, which is this. If you're going to move to reclaim your standing, then you've got to recognise that when you are to operate in equity, you can't be lying, telling fibs, or deceiving. You have to be straight. And that's going to be difficult for most people, because you spent your entire life deceiving, blagging, etc., etc. That's the normal MO for Blighty, and that's been for time. And it's very important that you understand that has to go out the window if you're going to expect to operate with success and correctly in this 3 jurisdictional shift of command that obviously you're all aiming to do. And that needs to be grasped. You have to come from the standpoint of you are in equity, i.e., you understand that who you're dealing with has a right to. And what he has a right to is for you not to talk out your ass, for you not to deceive, for you to lie. You've got to come with clean hands in honour. And I don't think people have really reckoned with what that means in respect of themselves. We always throw it out at these people and say they're not doing this, they're not doing that. But now what I'd ask you to do is to consider, take a look at your own life and look at how you yourself do not act in honour in your day-to-day. And more importantly, with yourself. Because everybody's running around fooling themselves one way or another. Ignoring this, ignoring that. That's the spiritual journey. The more you can remove that self-delusion and self-deception, so you're not kidding yourself, then you stand a chance of presenting yourself in a manner that's deceiving no one. So the exercise I would present for you to get stuck into now would be to analyse yourself, be totally honest with yourself, and just look at how in your own day-to-day, even if it's with your husband, your wife, your child, just consider the degree to which you've not recognised how much your day-to-day is based on deception and lies. Because that's the key to this. It's the key to grasping that is essential. All right? Anyway, that's that. Keep in mind. Where are we now? Kel says, Jesus spoke Aramaic and he was called... have we got any evidence of that? Have we, folk? Pedram says, by the way, Mike Yon, soldier turned war reporter, has joined forces with the economist Catherine Austin Fitz. Worth checking out in 2026. Thanks for that, Pedram. You could send me a link to that gig if you can, and I can start following it. Cheers, mate. Revelation 2:9 and Rev 3:9. Yahweh, synagogue of Satan. Absolutely. Treen. Hello, Treen. I sure know the wise Salem. A bit late. It's not a problem, Treen. Where are we? Lost my voice the last few days. I'm squeaking. Oh, the hag is squeaking. What have you been doing, you bad un? Have you been squeezing aggies and chasing aggies over Christmas? Lex Van Man says, Ya. Who is the Elohim of the Bible and his son our Saviour, Yahweh? The name Jesus was created in the 1600s by the Jesuits after the letter J was created. Yes. And is it more in tune with Yeshu? I would say fucking right it is. And how many people for centuries have been giving it, oh, Jesus, come into my life. Oh, that's cursed thyself, than us. That's cursed thyself, and they had no idea they'd done it. Not a clue. It's important shit. Where are we? Treen Yagi Squeezer, says Mew. Right. Thanks, Jeff. Nope. Lost my voice as well now. My son was happy though. I'll bet he was. They can chatter, me old China. I hope you're well, Treen. 5 weeks, bloody hell, girl. They also call him Isa at the Buddhist Himis monastery in the Himalayas. Jesus East Isa recorded a study now. Yeah, I know they use the Greek and all that Esos and all that malarkey, but I just thought, because we're all smart as fuck on here, I'll put that by you and see what you think. And then look at the state of the fucking game. Somewhere went wrong. Somewhere went seriously fucking wrong and people haven't recognised it yet, even today. So just take that on board. Anthony says, question, Sean. What's your take from the script on the phrase, the Son of Man? Right, so let's look at it. Who's made in the image of? Remember, it's not the Elohim, because that's the bastardized translation of the Hebrew. It's Father of the Beginnings. Remember this. If you take the correct translation of Hebrew, and instead of use Aleph as a translation. Okay? We've been through that. So, the Son of Man. Who is man? Is the image of. And man is male, female, remember. It doesn't determine male. Who is the Son of Man? So if we're the image of the Father of the Beginnings, Yeshua came back to show us, actually, we've got it all fucking wrong. You see, you're looking outside yourself for the gig. The Father you seek is within. Would that not make you the Son of Man? So he was showing him, because he doesn't say worship me. He never said he was the Son of fucking God. He never got involved in any Trinity and all this nonsense that they argue about forever and ever. Amun. Yeah? And it's just a nonsense. They're pissing in the wind. They're not even getting to the guts of it. So, that'd be my take on what he meant by that. If that makes sense. Right. Pedro says, Van der Leyen has specifically called Talmud as basis for European culture. Yes, you fucking did. The slut bitch. John says, Anthony, predictive programming similar to Johnny English. Remember, King Savage. He would turn the British Isles into a fully surveilled super prison for all the world's trash. Yeah. He did. Kel, Van der Leyen, or the burnt crab, as she's better known as. Second Temple prostitute bitch. I don't know what else. As among the other words. Now, it's good that she ain't going to get out of that. Not for fucking no loving money. She's going to be a goner. Pedram says, a Van der Leyen is reportedly a doctor. 2, a physician of sorts. I would not recommend anybody to seek medical advice from such doctors. No, neither would I. No way, missed all that. Changing trains, will do my usual catch up. No worries, Janie. Pedro says, Grow Harlem Brundtland of UN, Valiata of Islamic State, which invaded Iran in 1979, both paediatricians and child killers. Well, not surprising. They do like them kind of folks. Anthony says, point noted, John, I asked from a specific study of mine that has relation to the astrology and its relation to the anatomy of man from another favourite study of mine, Sportal Science, Know Thyself. Yeah, well, we've gone through the fact that it's... I mean, I'm just speaking in terms of how most people would understand it. Of course, we've gone through the chemical Yeshua. Have we not? We've gone through the law Yeshua. Take it whichever way you want. But, of course, the way they've pumped it up and talked out their ass with it, they've turned him into a fucking pantomime, basically. I am 1% electricity on my mobile, battery off, grid. If I vanish, you know why. No worries, mate. Spirituals. Anthony John says, Anthony, sorry, I was thinking of the film Children of Men. Apologies if comments seemed irrelevant. They are recruiting the officer corps. Okay, says Paul. Thanks for that, Paul. Anthony says, John, no worries, and I couldn't comment as I haven't seen that one. Pedram says, I have to update then. I have called it defence. What then? Flight of repel or guard? Defend. Or if, yeah, again, no offend. Oh, fuck me. I don't know. You've got me on one there. Kicking fucking heads in, Pedram's probably a good one. Do we need a fancy word? We must start kicking fucking heads in if they start to attack our properties and land. I'd go with that, mate. You can't go wrong. Protect and preserve. I shall do an etymology study of it all. No worries. Kicking fucking heads in, mate. That'll do. Lex Van Man, bang on. Pedram says, gross negligence by omission could be a crime in some professional, including surgical care, medicine and government. Absolutely it is. Paula says, with clean hands, yes, Sean. You're absolutely right. Anthony says, foundation scheme is the interesting terminology for those aware of the meaning of what foundation relates to. Word of the state, gateway through abandoning one's offspring and enrolment to forces. Upward Dog says, Sean, have you seen the silver prices this week? Yeah. Many commentators are saying this may be a black swan event. Okay, what do you mean? Exactly. Let me expand on that, buddy. John says, Children of Men is a mid-budget film where the UK is so overwhelmed by migrants fleeing world conflicts that the country descends into martial law. Okay. Anthony says, spent the entire day of the 25th sat in the garden around my fire pit, self-reflection of a sort. The intelligence of fire as an element of therapeutic and it interrupts the ego mind, take no thought. Right, well, basically what's happening when it comes to flame is a fire operates on alpha wave. Okay? That's its operational frequency. So when you stir into the fire, it obviously puts you in a trance at alpha level, which normally you are in your sleep. So it's a method of meditation because it's actually flipping your mind into a frequency that you usually only experience when you're fast asleep in beddy bars. So that's why we all like to stir into a fire. And I have to say, in the first year of dealing with this council tax gig, through the winter time, I had a fire every morning because if my fingers go white, they don't come back until I've warmed them up. And so I had to get one going first thing in the morning just to get my fingers going. And then I'd have to nip back every now and again just to warm them up. And not surprisingly, of course, but so much of my good ideas of responses to some of the stuff that were going on came stirring into that fire. Which were better because most of the time it comes when I'm half in sleep, half out. And so sometimes I were up till 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, in and out of sleep, getting these ideas down. So it did help to fix it so I could get some sleep and I could get some shit done in day. So, and it's a quarter day. Christmas Day is a quarter day. So the veils are thinned. And also, remember after the quarter day, whatever day it falls on, the next Monday after the quarter day is Frith, which again is a secondary, thinned, veiled day representing and connected to the original quarter. So Christmas Day was the quarter for this season. Monday tomorrow is the Frith. So again, you've got another day where the veils are thinned. So if you're meditating or you're looking for inspiration, quarter days and the Frith are the days in which you would pay attention. And keeping a diary is one of the best methods of keeping that data cemented in your mind as you pick it up. So remember that. Whatever you were doing on Christmas Day, Anthony, tomorrow is the secondary part to that quarter day. You will get continuum on whatever it is you were meditating on. So, yeah, and how many people know this kind of stuff, It's important. And remember, for the Druids, the new moon doesn't start until the 6th day, the 6th night. Therefore, removing the 5 extra Nietzsche's that gave us 365 instead of 13 months of 30 days. So, if you're doing Druidic magic on Amblighty, then the 6th night is the beginning of the new moon to our culture. Not following the Islamic and Jewish. Yeah, how many people know that? I'm not supposed to give these secrets away, but do I give a fuck? Do I fuck? I haven't took any oaths to say I won't. So I can do what the fuck I want. Anyway, where are we? Kel says, have you all heard about them moving the UN from New York to Nairobi, Kenya? No, it's Jerusalem, isn't it? Wherever that's going to be. They're going to create... They're sidelining the UN, I don't know whether you've noticed. And they seem to be bigging up the World Health Organization. I have a funny feeling the World Health Organization is going to be this Sanhedrin, no-hide world government. Because it is a medical dictatorship that they're putting in. So, no, I've heard nothing about that, and I'd be a bit dubious as to whether that's just a diversion. But the game is to get rid of this world government and implement a new one that the Sanhedrin controls. And as we saw in 2020, what the fuck controls the who? Milikowski and his band of Johnny-come-latelys. And of course, those way above him, he's just a muppet. Mew says, I've been keeping my eyes on the silver price for a long time, since it was 52 pence per gram, I know. If only I were wealthy. Paula says, it's about the zodiac, the Bible. It is as well. It's about a lot of things. It depends. You can approach the Bible from any angle, and you will get the science of it. This is what I was showing years ago, when I was doing the 666 stuff. Yeah. The bull nature. Because, the bull doesn't just represent Taurus, so it's not just astrological, which it is. And so much of the bull symbolism in the past is showing the shift from Taurus to Aries. But in another, or physiological, biological method, more spiritual, internal, the bull represents the first 3 chakras. So the killing of the bull is also symbolic of removing the control of the lower nature and raising yourself up to the heart and above. So that what you're creating then at heart is not just lower nature stuff. If you think about a bull, it just represents absolute power, but in the physical, sexual, strength, etc. And so it's not just the Bible that you can apply any science. You can approach this kind of stuff with any science. There is actually a full doctrine in relation to that. And that's the same with everything, not just the Bible. So you can approach the Bible with any kind of angle and you will get it. That's what makes it magical. But you have to be able to see through the additions, the bullshit, the garbage. Yeah, they've connected all this garbage. But you only miss it if you're a believer of the priests, the imams, the rabbis, and you're not utilizing your own equity. They can only beat you. They can only beat you if you're not exercising your own equity given to you by the Heavenly Father or the Father of the beginnings. If you're using law, which is Elohim, God and garbage, they've got you still, because you're up with a king. You're not in equity, are you? You're in their equity. And then, of course, you've got the ens legis, which is the liable debt instrument that only they have access to, because it's only active for them until you perform certain functions with it and then take back command. And it's 3 jurisdictions: sovereign, estate, ens legis, statutory, or legislation, as it were. So get your minds into this kind of stuff, because this is how you've got to think. But the most important one is start to realize that if you're approaching this from the wrong game, you will never do it. You've got to first recognize clean hands means equity, means no deception. And just analyze yourself and realize how much deception you use in your day-to-day, because you don't know anything else. Self-analysis, that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. Right, where are we? Nairobi, just in the southern hemisphere, slightly under the equator, which might be handy for avoiding radioactive nuclear winter clouds if a nuclear spat were to happen up north. DMSO protects your cells. Iodine protects your cells and reinvigorates them. Just make sure you've got the right tackle. Again, knowledge. DMSO, iodine, these are 2 substances that protect your cells, and also, if they damage, regenerate your cells, or help them regenerate from radioactive shit. Same with chemotherapy, all this stuff. It's about learning, educate yourself. Mew says, I've got logs burning right now in living room. I hope they're in bloody fire pit, man, and not in your on carpet. Lisa, what is he doing? Oh, he's not too much of that alcohol, has he? Has he been abandoned? Gary Peters. Evening, Gary. Stag doos, but no cock-a-doodle. Dear Gen Z or Gen ISIS, who can read? Very true. Welcome, Gary. Kel says, a few programs moved to Kenya a couple of years ago now, this year. It's a mad rush to move everything to Kenya. They're rushing a General Assembly building there as we speak. UN staff have got notice. Well, okay, so you've got some substance to your claim. However, I'll just try and give it again. If you look at what's happening between Israel and the UN, they're becoming opposing forces. UN's pretty clear. Israel's a bag of shit, genocidal fucking Holocaust maniac. So that would be reason for an excuse for Trump to open up this. This is why they want everybody opening embassies in Jerusalem, you see. That's why that embassies in Jerusalem is to do with this new governing body for the world government that they need as completely under the Sanhedrin in order to implement and administer the no-hide law. So even though the UN might be moving to Kenya, that's clearly a move within the UN itself, not necessarily anything to do with what this new world government is going to be. Remember that the UN is it's the third, because they tried it first in mid-1800s, but the first Tsar Russia fucked it. They said they'd get him back, and then they did. 1917, created the League of Nations, and then, of course, the one that succeeded was the United Nations. So they're going to shift it again. So I get you. There's substance to what you've said. Thanks for that information. But it wouldn't, in my case, as far as I'm aware, shift the idea that they're going to create a new world government in Jerusalem. That's why Trump opened an embassy there, etc., etc. So, yeah, thanks for that, Kel. Gary says, I get big fishes. You're all Jewish. How did you guess that? No, we're not, actually. Not that we've anything against the followers of the Torah. just these Johnny come latelys that claim to be Jewish but actually are bum shagging, sacrificing, PCI, purveying asswipes, and claiming to be either Christians or Jews or Muslims or whatever it is that serves them. That's the people we're talking about. The purveyors of compound interest, or Second Temple priesthood, which had nothing to do with the followers of the Mosaic law, but in its entirety controlled it because they used the Talmud. So welcome, Gary, and no, we're not. Although we've nothing against the decent guys. Where are we now? Anthony says, thankful, Sean. Point well and truly noted. No worries, Anthony. But don't you just remember my words. Get back on that fire tomorrow and see what comes through as a secondary gig for what you did on 25th. Right. Grow Your Hair or 909 Muppet Show with Blow. Oh, who's Gary? Is Gary Blot? Could be. Uber says, Black Swan events are events that can break an economy. How could it do that, though? How can it do that? I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to be buying silver right now, I'll tell you. Anyway, never mind. Which says, I personally just think the silver price is the LMBA and Comex losing control of fixing the price, but what do I know? Silver 8 times undervalued due to paper contracts on the Comex. Buy silver, not gold. Silver has reached parity with gold price in the past. Yeah, but no, you don't want paper. And you don't want futures either, remember. You want it in your hand. And everyone's going, oh, I'm paying 20%. Well, fuck that. If you want silver, just fucking buy it. You want it in your fucking hand, get it buried in garden. And make sure them squirrels can't nick it. You know what I'm saying? Good point, Kel. And it's still relatively cheap. The mint doesn't have any for sale. I looked at it today. Wow, really? Have you tried the Perth mint? Nice one, Sean. Great stuff. Says Jerry. Son of me. No, where is Jerry? Upward says, you assume you. I saw it for sale yesterday on the mint. I'm buying small denominations now. Quarter ounces and 1/10 ounces. Kerry says, this is top class. Cheers, Sam. Oh no. No, I'm wrong one. Cheers. Upward. Iodine DMSO are great. The missus swears by DMSO, but you've got to be careful with it. Well, I've stopped it, stuck it on every single part of my body. I've never had any problems. It can tingle on your skin a little bit, like a bit of a burning. But that's it. It's good shit, and I've had no negative effects at all. But I'm trying for eyeballs now. Let's see what happens there. Right, guys. I'm about done. I'll let you get going. You must have some nonsense to get up to. And I shall say all the best for the new year. And of course, we'll be back again on the old Sunday gig with a lot of more diatribes to discuss and nonsense to present. So, thanks for joining, Modder, you. Thanks for modding. And as is always the case, I shall say have a great week and till the next time.
electronic,